That's very kind of you to want to give her the benefit of the doubt, but I didn't see her speak to anybody. Even her family seemed to, her mother and brother seemed to be afraid of her. You don't tell Blake, you have all these people here, we need to feed them. Well, Blake Lively, I got the feeling when I first met her, I thought, oh no, is this another Anne Hathaway situation? Because the way she was dismissive from the get-go.
She wasn't nice. She was a nightmare. And now, maybe we've gotten to a place where we can finally just admit that the Ryan Reynolds captions are kind of cringe.
It confirmed everything of, you can't even find words to say hello, or yes, I remember, or again, how are you?
Who wouldn't want to meet Blair and Serena? And the PAs were all like, oh yeah, Leighton is so nice. She's so sweet. She's so fun. She's so caring. On and on and on about Leighton. They didn't say anything about Blake. And I very specifically said I would want to meet both of them. And they just gushed and gushed about Leighton and didn't say a word, nothing about Blake. You know the old saying, if you have nothing nice to say nothing at all, especially if you're a professional working with this actress. But I don't know. That was always really weird to me. And now seeing all of this come out.
All right, let's break this down because Blake Lively isn't exactly a stranger to controversy. This year has been wild for her. It's like every move she makes is under a spotlight. We've all seen her image take a hit, especially since the hype and drama around it ends with us. From how she acted behind the scenes to her handling of the film's promotion, Blake's mean girl persona has been a talking point for a while now.
TikTokers cited their connection, saying that there was serious beef between Baldoni and Lively. And being the internet, everyone has an opinion. To put it simply, some said that Lively and her husband Ryan Reynolds overstepped.
They begged me to take that song out of the movie. I'm not supposed to be talking about this.
Then this interview dropped.
The iconic rooftop scene in this movie, my husband actually wrote it. Nobody knows that, but you know.
And suddenly people started saying that there was a battle for creative control. Some sources even said that there were two final cuts of the film to be tested, one by Lively and one by Baldoni.
Because a lot of people are accusing her of just totally missing the point of the movie and really brushing over like the hard and heavy themes. I'm not a Blake Lively hater. I just am very confused by why we aren't taking more of an opportunity to really send a very impactful message to women who need to hear it, instead of just letting the movie speak for itself, because a lot of people might not actually end up seeing the movie.
All that's been enough to get people digging back into her past, looking at old interviews and talk shows where her dismissive attitude towards host has come up more than once. But recently, things took another turn when her former hairstylist, Emanuel Miller, spilled the tea in a big way. Emanuel did not just talk about Blake. He also shared stories about working with Anne Hathaway and Jennifer Lopez.
It's hard to talk about working with Blake without mentioning I did a film with Anne Hathaway, and that was one of my worst experiences. Anne never acknowledged me as a person. For 4.5 months, she treated me like a servant. All of a sudden, we were told, the next guest is on her way. It's Jennifer Lopez. You guys need to clear the room. Everybody needs... And suddenly, there was an instant panic. And again, I've been to doing a lot of talk shows in the green room with a lot of actors, and I'd never had that experience.
However, he made it clear that Blake's behavior in particular stood out, cementing her as a mean girl. In a recent episode of the podcast, What It's Really Like, Miller did not hold back. A TikTok clip of the episode even went viral with a caption, "Working with Blake Lively was bad, but Anne Hathaway was worse." As juicy as it sounds, the full interview took things even further. Miller opened up about how his experience with Anne Hathaway had left him feeling uneasy, mentioning that throughout the 4.5 months he worked with her, she barely said anything to him beyond hair-related instructions.
During that time while we were in Los Angeles, my daughter was her stand-in, and I was doing her hair personally, just one-on-one. I was just doing her hair. She never said, "Your daughter, do you have other children, or how long have you been married?" There was never any personal conversation, which Kate Blanchett and I, we knew each other's family. She knew my children. Johnny Depp was that way, Tom Hanks. But Anne Hathaway never did that. Well, Blake Lively, I got the feeling when I first met her, I thought, oh no, is this another Anne Hathaway situation? Because the way she was dismissive from the get-go.
Then came the real shocker, his experience with Blake. Emanuel admitted that he had concerns the moment he met her while working on her 2011 movie, Hick. He recalls thinking, oh no, is this going to be another Anne Hathaway situation? He explained that Blake seemed self-centered right from the start, not only on set, but in her personal life too. Emanuel shared a particular incident that really stuck with him. Apparently, Blake invited her film crew over for lunch, giving the impression of a friendly, welcoming event. However, things took a strange turn when, despite spending hours in the kitchen baking pastries and desserts, Blake did not actually feed any of her guests.
The kitchen was an absolute disaster. There was no food ready. Blake had been making pastries all night and cream puff towers and cakes, and the other guests stayed, but I finally left at around 8 o'clock and the food still hadn't been served.
I mean, is it possible that she was just feeling, I don't know, anxious? Did you witness maybe some rampant anxiety in the context of a dinner party where she didn't really know anyone?
That's very kind of you to want to give her the benefit of the doubt, but I didn't see her speak to anybody.
Miller remembered this moment well, stating how uncomfortable it was to see Blake only focus on showing off her baking skills rather than caring for her guests. When the podcast host gently suggested, is it possible she was just feeling anxious or maybe dealing with some kind of social anxiety? Emanuel did not hesitate. He replied, "That's very kind of you to give her the benefit of the doubt, but I did not see her speak to anybody." According to him, it was like she invited them over just to display her baking skills, and the fact that she'd stayed up all night preparing desserts, cream puff towers, cakes, pastries, you name it, but not a single main course in sight.
Even her family seemed to, her mother and brother seemed to be afraid of her. You don't tell Blake, you have all these people here, we need to feed them. In fact, the kitchen was such a disaster that Vivian and her sister who was visiting were called over at 1 o'clock from our house to come over and help clean. And they were there for an hour cleaning pots and pans and all the things that Blake had made a mess.
Emanuel painted a picture of this bizarre Easter dinner Blake had organized. She'd invited over 25 guests, and while most would expect an Easter dinner to be served around mid-afternoon, and it was 8 p.m. when Miller left, and he hadn't seen any sign of food. Classic Blake, right? According to him, she was all about showing off, keeping her guests waiting in a house that was, at that point, more of a pastry showcase than a dinner. And maybe if she'd actually spoken to her guests, things would have felt different. But no, she barely even acknowledged anyone. If we're honest, it really does seem like Blake thinks the world revolves around her. The Easter dinner incident speaks volumes, and while showing off your skills isn't exactly a crime, maybe take a minute to remember the people came over expecting a meal. From what Emanuel described, it was a case of Blake focusing on herself and not sparing a thought for the hungry crowd she'd invited over.
I think a few people have said this, and I completely agree. Blake Lively hasn't yet realized that people don't really like celebrities anymore. And so you have to be exceptional, like exceptionally likable for people to like you as a celebrity. And I think Blake is still stuck in the era of kind of around like Gossip Girl and like just coming out of Gossip Girl, where A-list celebrities were the bee's knees and everyone was, you know, aware of what celebrities were doing. We were so interested, we were shipping celebrities. And now we have influencers and content creators that feel more related to us.
This whole situation had fans going back to her earlier controversies, especially the tension on the set of It Ends With Us. Remember when the rumors started flying about her on-set friction with co-star Justin Baldoni? Word was, Blake got upset because she thought Justin was fat-shaming her after he asked his trainer how to properly lift her for a scene without hurting his back. Things quickly got twisted, making Justin look like the bad guy. However, more details emerged that seems to tell a different story. Some insiders hinted that Blake might have been the one stirring up trouble, allegedly being hard on the director and her co-star.
This was all the proof that I needed to know that Justin Baldoni was definitely being pushed out of his director role and completely overtaken by Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. He was asked at his own red carpet for the movie that he directed if he would be returning for the sequel. Here's the interview.
We do have It Starts With Us, so I'm hoping to see you back in the double duty role.
I think there are better people for that one.
Justin.
I think Blake Lively's ready to direct. That's what I think.
But she wasn't done there. When the time came to promote the movie, Blake's approach seems to rub people the wrong way. Instead of focusing on the film's main theme, gender-based violence and the serious struggles her character goes through, Blake's attention seemed to shift to her own business ventures. She was talking about her beverage company, Betty Bars, and her hair care line, Blake Brown. During one interview, her pitch for the film was more like, grab your friends, wear your florals, and head out to see it. For many fans, this missed the mark. It felt like she's completely overlooking the gravity of the movie's theme, instead turning the spotlight onto herself. The backlash only intensified when Blake hinted that her husband, Ryan Reynolds, had a significant influence on the film.
You literally can't convince me that Ryan Reynolds isn't the reason for all this Justin Baldoni "it ends with us" drama. But I knew something was up the second I heard that Ryan Reynolds was coming in and rewriting scenes on a movie that Justin Baldoni is not only starring in, but also directing, and is the whole reason this project is happening. Like, Justin Baldoni bought the rights to the book and was the one who approached Blake Lively about being in the movie, and yet I feel like Ryan Reynolds has done more PR for this movie than Justin himself.
Even on the red carpet, she seemed to be dropping hints about Ryan's latest project, a major Marvel film, and giving him credit for some parts of It Ends With Us, particularly one memorable rooftop scene. Instead of acknowledging screenwriter Christy Hall or author Colin Hoover, Blake made it all about her and Ryan. It felt like Justin, who directed the movie, was pushed to the side. Rumor has it that Blake and Ryan even bought the directing rights for a potential sequel after Justin reportedly made it clear he wouldn't return for a follow-up.
And yet I feel like Ryan Reynolds has done more PR for this movie than Justin himself. Like this whole interview that he did with Brandon, who played Atlas in the movie. And I feel like with him having a say on the movie and trying to make It Ends With Us and Deadpool the next Barbieheimer, it seems like Justin is getting pushed out of this whole situation, which is honestly kind of sad because he was most excited about this whole thing from the start. But in the past, Justin has been very vocal about mental health and how important that is, so it seems like at this point he's just trying to protect his peace.
After these recent controversies, people started digging deeper, and it turns out Blake's mean girl persona may not be anything new. In fact, a journalist named Justy Fla resurfaced a clip from a 2016 interview with Blake, right when all the negative buzz was surrounding her. In the clip, Justy congratulated Blake on her pregnancy, and instead of a simple thank you, Blake threw some shade, sarcastically congratulating Justy on her own bump, even though Justy wasn't pregnant. What made it worse, Blake's pregnancy wasn't a secret at the time. She had already confirmed it to the press. So that snarky response just felt totally out of line.
But I just wanted to say it in a kind of disarming way, congrats on your little bump. And I don't understand still why that is offensive. I find it a little offensive that she said it back to me, to be honest with you. I was like, do I have a bump? Yeah, it was strange behavior to me. If she wants to apologize, that would be amazing. I think if you behave badly, if you own up to that.
To make things even more heartbreaking, Justy later opened up, revealing that she had been struggling with conception issues around that time, and Blake's comment had taken a real toll on her mental health. It did not stop there. Footage from a 2017 DP30 interview only added fuel to the fire. In the clip, the interviewer asked Blake what kind of roles she wanted to take on in the next 5 years, and even threw in a question about her feeling free to try anything. Instead of answering, Blake rolled her eyes, responding with, "What does that mean?" The interviewer tried to clarify, using an example about singing, but Blake wasn't having it. She quickly snapped back, saying she does sing, actually. Things got intense when she asked him if he had even watched the movie, and then joked about giving him a pop quiz at the end. The resurfacing of this video just reinforced what many fans were beginning to think, that Blake's attitude might be more than just an on and off bad day. It's no wonder her name keeps coming up in the lists of mean girls in Hollywood.
Listen, I'm not one to pile on, but since everyone's talking about Blake Lively and, her current and past behavior in some of these interviews, I'm just here to remind you, or maybe tell you for the first time if you didn't catch this back in the very beginning of 2012, she was actually fired from a movie before they shot it, Side Effects, the Steven Soderbergh thriller, but they then pulled out. They did not like that Blake Lively was going to be the lead. So, when you get a high-profile firing, maybe just, watch your tone, watch your attitude.
Emanuel's story of working with Blake is just another chapter in a series of incidents that seem to point to a pattern. Blake has always wanted to be in control, to have the final say, and to make every situation about herself. It's like she has this urge to stay in the spotlight at all costs, even if it means sidelining others or focusing more on her own brand than on the other people around her. Blake's mean girl reputation only continues to grow, And it's not looking like this label will go away anytime soon. She's shown time and time again that her focus is on herself. And her behavior toward those she doesn't consider at her level does not exactly help her image. It's about staying at the top. And if past incidents are any indication, we probably haven't seen the last of these stories. So, what's your take on this? Are you surprised that Blake's getting exposed like this? Or are you expecting even more stories to surface? Do you think there's a chance she'll make things right with a sequel to It Ends With Us? Or has she done too much damage already? Drop your thoughts in the comments and do not forget to like and subscribe if you're here for the latest celebrity buzz. Until next time, peace out.